So join me, let's retouch this particular image inside of Photoshop. So the very first thing you want to do is to open your image. And I got this particular image from Dirty Studio. So if you want raw images to practice with, you can easily go to dirtystudio.com and you can find some raw images to practice with, okay? So I've already done my color grading. And once you're done with your color grading, what you want to do is to open, okay? And I prefer to color grade before retouching. Depending on your creative process, you can decide to retouch before color grading, but I personally prefer to color grade before I retouch, okay? So I'm done with my grading and I'm going to click open right here. So when you click open, it actually takes some time to read the camera raw format and then it opens inside of Photoshop. Now the very first, crop this image and you select the crop tool, because let's say I was going to post this on Instagram, I'd want this in a 4:5 ratio, okay? So 4:5, and I'd want to crop in a way that these third lines actually intersect on the eye, okay? It makes the composition more appealing. So right here, the image is cropped, and the very first thing I'd want to do is to duplicate this layer. So now after duplicating this layer, and I keep saying work faster and work smarter, not all the time you have to work harder, okay? So if I want to fix this backdrop, I'm actually going to use the Retouch for me clean backdrop. In this sense, I've used it and it was not the most accurate, okay? So I'd like to do this manually. I've already retouched this picture. I'm just doing it for teaching you guys, okay? So if I did retouch for me clean backdrop, let's see what it does right now. It actually takes some time and you see what result it comes up with. All right, so this is what I was talking about. I don't really like this bit around the face. Look at original and the preview, okay? I don't really like this bit around the face. One way of fixing it is making this a mask and then going over to paint it. But also the way it cleaned up the background, I don't really like it, okay? So I'm just going to hit cancel and I'm going to do this manually. So doing this manually, I'm going to be using the patch tool, and with the patch tool, you can easily select by drawing over this, left click and draw. And to select multiple, just hit shift, then select these. If you want to patch from one area, just drag to the area where you feel like it's works best for your image, and then you release to patch and Control D. So you can see, as you can see, 1, 2, 1, 2. So let's go find other parts of the image, the background that needs some cleaning, and let's do that, okay? 1, 2, 3, 4. So just hold shift down on your keyboard to select multiple stuff with the patch tool, and actually speeds up your workflow. All right, so I feel like this is clean enough. So let's look at the before and the after, before and after, okay? So the next thing now we're going to do is we're going to do our frequency separation, okay? And frequency separation is just a method of retouching where it actually separates your skin textures from your skin colors and allows you to work on both of them as independent layers, okay? So I'm just going to be using the Beauty Retouch version 3.3 from Retouching Academy. And if you actually want this, you can easily go onto their website and then buy it, okay? So I'm going to click on frequency separation via Gaussian blur. And for this image, what worked best for me was 6.4. For those of you who do not know much about frequency separation, you just drag this all the way to 0.1, and then you select the part of your skin that has the most textures, okay? And then you drag this all the way up to a point where the textures begin to disappear. Just when they begin to disappear, and you have, I had my best results at 6.4, so I'm going to keep 6.4. Okay, I cannot share this particular Retouching Academy plugin with you because it's going to violate the company's policies. But if you want your own, what's the name? Your own action, I have my custom action that I use for frequency separation. So you can just comment action in the comments and I'll send it to you. Okay. All right. So when it comes to correcting the skin tones by working on the colors, the first thing I want to do is to turn off my high frequency layers. So the high frequency ones are supposed to work on the texture, and the low frequency ones are going to work on the colors. Okay, so I turn off these two high frequencies so I can see the colors, and I'm going to go on low frequency colors and tones to correct my colors. Okay, and the tool that we're going to be using here is the mixer brush tool. So with the mixer brush tool selected, you want to make sure that your caps lock is off. If not, you're going to have a cross type of cursor. So let me just show you. If your caps lock is on, this is how it's going to look, and caps lock off like this. Okay, and the settings that I like to use, I like to keep my width at a 9%, load of 75, mix of 90, and flow of 100. Yes. And what you want to do is you want to load a clean brush. Okay, and you want to check off this option and only leave this one turned on. So this says clean brush after each stroke, and that's what you want to leave turned on. All right. So when it comes to this, you are painting. Okay, when you're using painting from one part of the skin into the. Okay, if you want to just adjust the size of your brush, you can either use this slider, or I prefer the keyboard shortcut, which are the bracket keys. Okay, and so with the bracket keys, you just hit the right one to make it bigger, and then the left one to make it smaller. Okay, all right. So we're painting from where we feel like we want to sample those colors into the next area. The point of working on the colors layer is to actually have smooth transitions on the skin. Okay, so you want to zoom out your image. That works best for me, and keep your brush slightly bigger than the area that you want to paint over, and start painting. And you want to make sure that you are painting in the direction of your model's face. Okay, if not, you're going to have something that might not really work for you. Like we said, paint in the direction of the model's face. And don't worry about your image looking slightly plastic, because if you remember, we turned off the texture layers. Okay, so the image is going to be without textures currently. So now let's work on the neck area. So really take your time when you're doing this, and make sure you're not painting from the skin onto the clothes, because it also gives you an effect that you don't really want. All right. Take your time, even those colors. right, so I feel like we've done a pretty good job here, and you can turn on your texture layers back. So let's just see what we've done with the colors. And if you want to see the before, you just go back into your group and then turn off the entire group, turn it back on. So these are before and these are after. Okay, before and after. And I feel like I like the after better. Okay, so now after working on our colors, the next thing we want to do is to go work on our textures. And our textures here are going to be on this high frequency layer. So we select high frequency, and with the high frequency layer, we're going to be working on the skin imperfections, okay, which are the blemishes, the pimples, and stuff. So with this clone stamp tool, and the clone stamp tool, all we do is that we sample one part of the skin that we want to replace with another part. So Alt, okay, so you hold Alt and then you click to sample, and then you just click over the next area to replace, okay. Right here, you sample this area, click over this. Okay, here, with this guy. So you keep doing this until you actually have little to no imperfections on your subject's face, depending on how you want to retouch. Retouching is very subjective. So I'll just speed up the video from this point, and I'll come back and I'll show you what we've done. All right, so now that we're done, I'm going to create a stamp visible layer, because a couple of these areas are going to give us problems when we are going to be using the clone stamp tool. So we just want to use the patch tool. And before doing that, we want to create a stamp visible layer, okay? And the stamp visible layer is just going to add everything underneath this and make it into a layer of its own. All right, so using the patch tool, let's work on these guys. And for this, I would want to leave it there because it feels like an innate feature. Looks more like a bed mark or something, and people usually like the bed marks. Unless your client actually explicitly states that you don't, unless your client explicitly states that you should remove that, then you should, okay? But for me personally, I'm going to leave it in there. All right, so let's remove this. Okay, so the next step of this, since now we're done doing what's the name, our frequency separation, let me group everything into one so you actually see. So let's turn off these two. So these are before and these are after, and this looks pretty good in my opinion. So we're done with our frequency separation. The next thing that we want to do is I want to work a bit on the eyes here. I want to remove the red veins and also make the eyes a bit white. So what I'm going to do is to, still using my beauty retouch panel, I'm just going to click on magic eyes, and it's going to create those layers for me. Once again, I can't share this with you, but if you want one, I also have my own custom actions that I use, and then you can just tell me and I'm going to send those to you, okay? So you can just comment eye whitening, or the previous one was for skin retouching, so you can just comment there and I'll send you my custom actions. All right, so let's do this. Clean white eyes here. So we're on a black layer mask, okay, and we want to paint white. so that we can review whatever is done in these layers. Okay, so if in case your foreground color is black, you just need to hit X on the keyboard to switch that. But we want our foreground color to be white, selecting the brush tool, not the mixer brush. Okay, so in case you're painting and you realize it's not working, probably the previous mixer brush tool selected, and these tools are almost similar when it comes to the drawing. So click your brush tool, opacity at 100, flow at 100, and we go on background, foreground color set to white, then we paint. So as you can see, this particular one removes the red veins and also makes the eyes white at the same time. And that's why I like using the Beauty Retouch panel, because it actually speeds up your workflow. If not, you'd have to use the clone stamp tool to remove the red veins. Then you now have to use your action to whiten the eyes. Right, so as you can see here, we've done a pretty good job with the eyes, whitening them. There's some bit of under eye here that need whitening, and can easily come here and zoom in and whiten these parts. Okay, so I'm okay with this, and I'm going to leave it like that. So let's see what we've done so far. I'm going to select everything right here, and I'm going to group these, and I'm going to name this after. Okay, so for us to see our changes before and after, and I feel like we've really done a good job with this image. The next thing that would be left, in case you actually want to do some changes to this image, is doing some dodge and burn. Okay, and with dodging and burning, you can actually use the curves layer, or you can dodge or burn any particular part of the image that you want to use. I personally like to use the Retouch for Me plugin, because I feel like it does a faster and better job most of the time, unless you really want to get in manually. So I just go to Retouch for Me, portrait volumes, and I allow it to do its job. So we'll see what it can actually do with this image. Yeah, twisting it. Looking nice. Here's that where we get looking. Let's sit down. Okay. It's too much. So we can see what we've done here. So let's go to our original. Yeah, I feel like I like this a little bit of dodging and burning that this has done. Yeah, this is better. So right here, you just click apply and you're done. Okay. So this is our final image. Before and after. And this is how you can manually retouch using the tools available to you inside of Photoshop. Retouch for Me is not available inside of Photoshop. You need to buy it. It's an extension. And also Beauty Retouch is also not really available in Photoshop, but it just uses Photoshop layers, and it's more of a manual thing. It just speeds up your workflow so that you don't have to create all these layers by yourself, and it's more like an action pack. Okay, so this is what we've achieved with our manual retouching. And then in the next part of this video, I'm going to show you using a different app, which is an AI based tool, and we're going to see side by side how we can actually achieve another retouch using that one. Okay, so we're going to compare manual retouching versus AI retouching. So now we're going to be editing the same picture inside of Evoto, and we're going to open this. This was the image, and I'm going to hit open right here to import it into this now. All right. So the very first thing we want to do is, like we did in Photoshop, we want to refine the background. Okay, so let's go background enhancement, clean backdrop. Okay, so let's clean our backdrop and let's see what it does. It's done a pretty good job. All those spots that we could see are no longer there. So before and after, before, after, and I like the after. So we're just going to now go on to our skin retouching. And the very first thing we did was to slide this, and then when we do that, we're actually trying to remove the freckles and then the acne. I'll say it's done a good job, except this little point here. But we also struggled a bit on Photoshop to do that. So just going to click here using the hue tool, and it's actually done. So we'll just hit OK. Then now we're done with the blemishes on the face. Okay, so let's go do the blemishes on the body. To zoom out and in with the photo, you just use the scroll button on your mouse if you're using an external mouse, or you can hit Control plus, Control minus, it's like Photoshop. All right, so body blemishes. Drag this slider all the way to 100, and it's done a very good job. Okay, and as you can see, these are just one slide, one click, and very fast doings. Okay, so now in case you want to do your skin retouching with this app, you can also do the same thing. And with skin retouching, just the first thing, let me turn this back down. The very first thing that we want to do is with the frequency separation, like we did in Photoshop, you can actually use your frequency separation slider here. So you drag this up all the way, and it's done a pretty good job with the frequency separation. All right, it's actually neat, but it did this mostly to the body and didn't do anything to the face. Okay, so one thing about this is I find this feature quite cool. So what it allows you is that you can actually select a skin tone for your Melvin, don't say patient, for your subject, right? And what you can do here is that you can select the skin tone, and in this case, the skin tone looks quite good. This also looks good, depending on the kind of image you want. Okay, but now this looks way darker than she looked, and I think I'm going to go for this. Okay, reduce the amount slightly, somewhere 39, and as you can see, we have a more uniform skin tone across the face and then the body. So these are before and these are after. The next thing we might want to do, like we did in Photoshop, is using our dodge and burn. So you can either decide to even the face with dodge and burn, slide this. Let's see how it looks after 59. Okay, it looks quite good. And now the sculpting. The sculpting is actually going to add that structure that dodge and burn actually does. And let's see. Let's drag this all the way up. And okay, slightly overdone. So I'll leave this at 90, and let me show you guys the before and then the after. Okay, with Evoto, one thing I found out is with the eyes, it doesn't really do that much of a nice job. Okay, so let's go do the red vein removal in the eyes, and for me, it's not the cleanest. I prefer what I did inside of Photoshop. You can also come here, adjust the brightness of each eye, can adjust the whites. And I don't really like this. Okay, so the eyes, I prefer manually retouching the eyes inside of Photoshop, but this is going to be a before and this is going to be a after. So you can look at both of these. One of them is actually faster, one of them is more like energy intensive, which is definitely with Photoshop. So you can actually tell me like which of them do you like, which of them do you think has the better results. You can leave that in the comment section, and if there's anything else that you want to know, if there are any questions from this, also type in the comment section and I'll get to you. Okay, as usual, just keep practicing and keep being creative. See you guys in the next video.